Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Joel, and today we are proud to welcome a special guest to the podcast. Jeff Kotulak is here to talk about his company, NAEV, which stands for North American Electric Vehicles, and a truly unique EV, the Cyber Hummer. Jeff, welcome, and how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Doing all right. So, to begin, tell us about your background in the EV space and how the idea for the North American electric vehicles came about.
So, I guess about 10 years ago, I was restoring Porsche 911s, and it kind of got to the point where, there really wasn't anybody available locally that could do things like rebuild the motors and tune carburetors. So, I guess it was kind of like a bit of a search. Like, what do we do with this thing, right? Like, do we send everything to California and wait a year or two? Um, So because, we're in the day where everybody's wanting things done fast. Just by searching the internet, it was kind of cool to see that people were doing these Tesla swaps. And I already had a background in electrical engineering, so the circuits were pretty simple for me. Um, the hard part was just kind of like figuring out which vehicles would work. 911 was good because it's a rear engine. Tesla Model S is a rear engine. So, with some clever fabricating, the motor fits pretty well in the back. Um, and then, yeah, it was kind of like it was never supposed to be a business. It was a hobby and I guess it's kind of the same story with every builder. Somebody sees what you're doing and they go, okay, well, can you build me one? And that's kind of what happened, right? So, and
All
then,
right.
yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, no, you can continue on with that. It's fine.
And then I guess, fast forward, the goal became, try to find something that we could build at scale. Like trying to build things one of a kind over and over and over. It's like you're just starting again, blank slate. So obviously, like 911s isn't that scalable. I know it's being done, maybe 20, 25 units a year, but it's tough. They're old, they're rusty. I know that like Singer Automotive, those guys spend like 4,000 hours. So that's a huge time commitment per vehicle. Um, and then I guess we kind of just landed on the Hummers. Like Hummers are great because they're aluminum bodies. There's no rust to deal with. It's cool because we can buy them from the auctions, and nobody really wants them because they're not running. So, like from a sustainability perspective, like it's pretty key for us. We take Hummers that nobody wants, and then we find Tesla parts, at salvage yards, test them, and then build everything into a new product. So it's from a sustainability perspective, it's pretty cool.
So yeah, if you go to your website, you're going to see the Cyber Hummer is kind of all over the place. It looks cool. So kind of going a little bit more detail about what inspired that particular build and kind of how it all got started.
So originally we had a customer. Like I originally was wanting to do Hummers, and for cash flow reasons, we had to find a customer. So we did find a customer. He wanted a Hummer. So we built him one, and it was pretty good. Like it did what it had to do. Went down the road 4x4ing, but then the challenge was like, how do we solve some of these issues? Some of the issues were range. Some of the issues were weight. So it took about another 2 years of development to sort of figure out, how do we solve these issues? It turned out that like to solve the weight issue, what we did is we just basically eliminated mostly everything Hummer suspension. Replaced it all with combination of Tesla suspension and then our components and brackets. And then that's pretty much also helping us with the range because the original Hummers, like, there's a ton of gear reductions. You've got a 2-to-1 gear reduction at the wheel, which is resistance. So, going straight drive from the Tesla motor is kind of key to the range as well. And it was really hard. Like, it was really, really hard project. But now we're at the point where, we're ready to scale. We're building, half dozen trucks. and things are looking really good. Trucks are running really well. Like, there's nothing on the market that you can actually, as an EV, where you can burn tires. Like, try to go on your Tesla and turn off the front motor. Like, you're not going to do it.
That is true. So, kind of, how long does the build process take, kind of from beginning to end?
Right now, it's about 6 to 8 months. It depends on the options, right? Like, some stuff will slow us down. If somebody wants custom upholstery, then it takes a bit longer. But yeah, 6 to 8 months.
And compared to kind of other EV conversions that you've done, is this a little bit easier, a little bit harder? You kind of mentioned that the Hummer does have some simplicity to it.
I mean, everything's hard the first time. Um, like the first Hummer was really hard. It was like probably 2,000, 3,000 hours. The second demo was probably 1,500 hours, and then the new trucks are like 500 hours to build. So I mean, again, it's just dialing in the processes and knowing what you have to do. Like, as an example, like building a bracket set is a huge undertaking the first time. It takes 2, 3 revisions. Um, but once you get it and you can scale it.
Gotcha. So, personal question: are these Hummers hard to find? Are there a lot out there?
There's a ton of them, man. Like, if you go on the military auctions, they're selling hundreds per month. Like, the U.S. military
Wow.
sells. They decommission them. It looks like around 13 years old. And the majority of them come out of California. But yeah, there's tons of them, and like you can't really do too much with them. The military ones, the ones that were armored, they'll de-armor them and then sell them. So you've got no doors, no enclosure. Most of the ones that they sell are kind of soft tops. So like they're not really that great for people to buy and try to drive around. They require a lot of modification anyway. So I mean, going EV and giving it 1,000 horsepower. I mean, it just kind of makes sense, right? It's the best way to do it.
True. True. So, how many of these do you all plan to build?
Well, we're kind of in the financing stage right now. We're seeking investment to move south from Canada down to Las Vegas. So the goal is to build 300 trucks a year once we're able to scale.
And what would you say NAEV is doing better than most competitors in the EV space at this point? And where could y'all improve?
I'd say that, like, most of the people in the EV space are doing what we started doing, which is doing one of a kinds. You find some
Mhm.
super rich guy, he's got $1 million, he wants something, and you build it, right? So I know there are a couple of outfits that are trying to scale, especially in like the Land Rover space, but it's tough. Those things are rusty. Like,
Mhm.
you've got a lot of restoration expenses. So I'd say where we're doing the best is the price point. Starting at 100K, like I don't think anybody is competing in that space. What can we do better? I mean, we can do everything better. As time goes on, everything literally gets better. Like, you can improve every system, for 15 years. So that's the goal. Just build one thing, do it really well, and keep improving it.
Gotcha. So thinking of some other things, as customer and demands and even technology continue to change, how will NAEV adopt to such a rapidly changing electric vehicle landscape?
I mean, so just as an example, like right now, for our motors, our controllers are limited to, the early Model S motors, so 2013 to 2020. But as time moves on, like there's a new controller coming out really soon. It's going to allow us to do 2022 plus motors. So it's
Hmm.
just we're just going to sort of follow the path of the technology, right? And but it's hard to say, right? Like, I mean, we're kind of living in a time where everything's moving fast. So I mean, it's you just keep moving with it, right?
True. And you kind of stated at the beginning, you started with the Porsche 911. You've moved yourself up to the Hummer. You said there's some difficulties with other vehicles due to rust and things like that, because these are kind of rugged off-road vehicles. Have you thought about any other vehicles kind of in the pipeline you like to do as well?
I mean, like we could essentially do anything, but at the end of the day, it's really a study in demographics, and I think this is what we're doing better than any of the other EV companies. Nobody's looking at demographics.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in the classic car space, um, you're essentially selling nostalgia. Okay, so demographics are important because you're not looking at just current buyers; you're looking at future buyers. So, if your business model was to sell Porsches, you really got to look at the demographics of who is nostalgic about classic 911. And since those things have been, essentially gone off the road for 30 years, I mean, you're kind of hitting the very end of Gen X. I don't think boomers are buying cars anymore. I think that they're
Mm-hmm.
done. If you're a boomer and you wanted a car, you already have it, or you're never going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like trying to sell like whatever 67 Mustangs, like there's a little bit of a market, but there's no nostalgia for millennials, right? They weren't alive. So, like our focus is on the Hummers because millennials, um, have that nostalgia towards the truck. They saw them in the movies. Um, they've seen them driving around. So, as millennials come into money and they want toys, that's what our focus is.
Sounds pretty cool. So let's think to the future. 5 years from now, how do you think NAEV will be different than it currently is? Maybe some vehicles, maybe that you may upgrade, maybe some wider array vehicle offerings. Kind of predict the future for us, and where do you see yourselves in 5 to 10 years?
I think 5 years, like, I hope to be at scale. Our projections are, to get to 300 units per year by 2027. But I mean, kind of like we can do whatever we want. Like, I'd love to do sort of like a pre-runner style Hummer. I think it'd be so cool. So, I mean, we could kind of do anything in that space. The sky's the limit, really.
That is true. Well, Jeff, I want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure to speak with you today, and we wish you the best of luck. Audience, if you're interested in more information about NAEV and the Cyber Hummer, you can head on over to NorthAmericanEV.com. That's NorthAmericanEV.com. We would like to thank Jeff for joining us today in the podcast, and we hope you all have a great day. So long, everyone.
Thanks.